Welcome to Module 2, Lesson 1.2, Securing Apprenticeship Opportunities for DC Youth, an interview with DeSean Lawson. As the state apprenticeship agency, the DC Department of Employment Services, or DOES, provides oversight for registered apprenticeship programs in the District of Columbia. In this video, you'll listen in on a Zoom interview with DeSean Lawson, who is an apprenticeship and training representative from the DC Department of Employment Services. Mr. Lawson shares his insight on youth apprenticeships in DC and talks about his role in securing apprenticeship opportunities for the DC youth.
I'm so excited to welcome our colleague, Mr. DeSean Lawson from the Department of Employment Services in Washington, D.C. Hi, DeSean.
Hi, Beth. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
We're so happy to have you here. The participants who are here are very committed to apprenticeship and to expanding knowledge of apprenticeship for district youth. And we know that you're a person who is equally dedicated to these endeavors. And so I thought we could just start with you telling our participants here, Project Expand ambassadors in training, a little bit about you and your path to being engaged in workforce development, how you became interested in this work and the world of employment and the role of apprenticeship programs in building workforce. We'd just love to know a little bit about your path to where you are now.
Of course. So my name is DeSean Lawson. I'm an apprenticeship training representative with the Department of Employment Services. I'm a proud Washingtonian. I grew up in Ward 8 in Southeast DC. And as you guys may know, Southeast DC is often overlooked. So my way of giving back is going into Ward 6, 7, and 8, helping them find a job, get into college, find an apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is a pathway to middle class. A lot of people doesn't realize that the fact that apprenticeship is earned while you learn. It's free. You don't have to pay anything to be an apprentice. Once you become an apprentice, you're working a full-time job. You're also going to school 2 to 3 hours per week. So for me, it's just helping district residents get into an apprenticeship and to find a pathway to the middle class. It's very expensive to live in Washington, D.C. So apprenticeship is a lot of high-paying wages. Occupations are amazing, whether it's construction or information technology or education, non-traditional sector. So I'm just here to help district residents get into an apprenticeship, to learn more about apprenticeship and to get a pathway to the middle class.
Thank you so much, DeSean. And, I've worked with you now for about 18 months. I did the math, and watching you work in the capacity that you work in with the DC Council and the support that you provide to programs as they're developing apprenticeship programs is extraordinary. Your dedication and the giving back is so clear in your work. Speaking of your work and DC's DOES, I just would like to ask a little bit about if you can help us make some of these connections that Jocelyn kind of gave a 50,000-foot overview about, just in terms of DOES and its connection to the district government, to U.S. Department of Labor, and probably even more interesting for us is that connection to the apprentice work that goes on not only in the district, DeSean, around here, but also in Maryland and Virginia as well. We have this DC kind of metro area. So I wondered if you could potentially just kind of tell us about the longstanding support for registered apprenticeship programs in the district, and how that connects into the DC Gov, to U.S. Department of Labor, and to the DC metro area.
Yes, of course. So the Department of Employment Services, we help district residents find employment, right? So we have different departments within the agency, like out of school youth, OSY, helping with the youth find employment. One of our biggest things is the Youth Summer Murray-and-Burry internship program, where you can work from ages 14 to 24. And I worked there for 6 years myself when I was in middle school and high school, and the Office of Apprenticeship. Just like she said before, we're one of 26 SAA, state apprenticeship agencies. So we work directly with a lot of registered apprenticeship sponsors. We have over 350 registered apprenticeship sponsors in the district alone. Out of the 350, I would say 300 are in the construction field, 50 are in non-traditional. So a lot of construction is going on in Washington, D.C. That will always take place, right? So we're here to ensure that those companies that are working on these contracts hire district residents, whether you're a laborer, skilled laborer, whether you're an apprentice, we're making sure that they're working on these contracts. So a little bit something different is the non-traditional aspect of it. So information technology as well. So if you have a contract that's worth at least $500,000 in Washington, D.C., and it's working on construction or IT, it is mandatory for you to have a registered apprenticeship program, and you have to come to our office so we can help you start that registration so you become a registered apprenticeship sponsor that's recognized by the DC Apprenticeship Council. And DC Apprenticeship Council takes place with 11 members. So you go before the council to get approval. Once you get approval, you come to our office after that to register your apprentices with us. And then we'll make sure that the apprentices is actually going to school 2 to 3 times per week, 144 hours minimum per year, while also they're working 40 hours per week. It's a full-time job. So people have to understand that apprenticeship is not an internship. Apprenticeship is a full-time job, but as long as an apprenticeable occupation. So an apprenticeable occupation is an occupation that you can learn it takes at least 1 year to learn, between 1 year and 5 years. If you can learn an occupation before 1 year, it's not an apprenticeable occupation, but at least 1 year, it's an apprenticeable occupation. So we'll help you create your standards and take it to the step-by-step process of how to do an apprenticeship program, make sure the rules and regulations of the apprenticeship program, and then just make sure that the apprentice is taken care of, right? But the job of paying the apprentice is actually on the employer. Yes, you can get funding through DOS if we have a grant in that particular field, whether it's a teacher grant, whether it's IT grant at that time. We rarely give out construction grants right here in the Office of Apprenticeship, but we do other grants. But first and foremost, apprenticeship is a way for the company to build their workforce. The responsibility is on the sponsor to make sure that they have the funds to pay their apprentice. Now, if you're an intermediary sponsor, it's a little bit different. You can contact an employer and have them come before the council as well to adopt your apprenticeship standards, and they follow that, and the employer can pay their apprentice. But people always come to DOS thinking they can get funding. And yes, we have funding, but first and foremost, it's on the sponsor, that an employer, to pay their apprentice. And just know apprenticeship is a full-time job. That's the most thing that we always have to tell people, that it's a full-time job. You're working 40 hours per week. Earn while you learn.
I quote you all the time, DeSean, that apprenticeship is not an internship, because you've said that to me, I don't even know how many times over the last months, but it's such an important concept. And also interesting to know about, an apprenticeable occupation has that limit in terms of, the on-the-job learning component being delineated to at least a year. You also mentioned the non-traditional, apprenticeships that are available as well. There is a ton of construction in the district, no doubt, but also, projects that are supporting information technology and cybersecurity and other kind of non-traditional arenas. I thought it might help, and I'm mindful of your time, so I hope this isn't too long of a question, but maybe you could just help us understand a little bit about how those apprenticeship programs, who can think of them, who can propose them, how are they developed, how are they recognized, how are they regulated? You're speaking to a group of very dedicated educators who want to expand exposure in our DC K-12 school space, particularly in the secondary space, for their students to have exposure to these opportunities. How do those opportunities come about, and how do you guys keep tabs on those opportunities, and whether they're meeting the high standards that DOES has set in the SSA for what an apprenticeship is?
Yes, great question. So there are over 1,000 occupations that have been certified by the U.S. Department of Labor as an apprenticeable occupation. And these apprenticeable occupations include such as healthcare, IT, energy, security, construction, fire safety, education. So a lot of the times when we get a call, I know off jump if it's an apprenticeable occupation, right? But I also send these contractors or send these sponsors or potential sponsors a link to our website, to the Department of Labor website, to apprenticeship.dc.gov as well, so they can pull up what is an apprenticeable occupation. But sometimes they like certain people think that you can be an apprentice in just 6 months. And I always have to tell them it has to at least be a minimum of 1 year. If it's at least 1 year, then it's an apprenticeable occupation. And a lot of times for non-traditional, that's a new sector for us, right? So over the past 5 years, we started doing more non-traditional work because we realized that a lot of these different education programs and teachers and IT, they need to build their workforce. It's a shortage. Whether it's nursing, whether it's teaching, it's a shortage. So apprenticeship is a way to build their workforce. So when they come to us, we give them a apprenticeship standards template. It's very simple. It's about 10 pages long, 25 items in that apprenticeship standards template. And we go through it step by step. We help them develop their apprenticeship standards. We do a work process, which details the scope of work of what they're going to be learning on the job. We help them write their curriculum. They need help with that. We also have access to other people, different apprenticeship programs throughout the country that we can contact on apprenticeship.dc.gov to see a sample template of apprenticeship standards. So a lot of times, like, and if we don't know, we contact the Department of Labor because this is what they do as well. So we're just one of 26 SAAs. Department of Labor, they know more about apprenticeship than we do, even though we know a lot about apprenticeship. So we also contact them if it's something that's a new trade or new occupation. We're not sure if it's a apprenticeable occupation or not. We'll contact the Department of Labor. I'll contact our program manager, Mr. Lewis Brown, who we always call him the godfather of apprenticeship. He's been doing apprenticeship for the past 50 years. So if any questions that I don't know, I go right to Mr. Brown to get more about apprenticeship. And I'm pretty sure, like I said, if you can learn an occupation or trade within a year, or at least a year, it's an apprenticeable occupation.
Right.
And their rules and regulations is a little bit different when it's not construction. Construction rules and regulation is it's stricter. It's tight, right? Other aspects of it basically depends on how you want to run your program. It's a little bit different, right? So like being a teacher is totally different. That's something that you guys are masters at. So you tell us what should be in your apprenticeship standards. We can tell you the rules and regulations it should be at least 2,000 hours per year on the job, which is 40 hours per week working, or 2 to 3 hours per week in the classroom. But other than that, a lot of the things we look at your expertise when it comes to education. We're not experts in that field.
Right. You mentioned that the non-traditional occupations are more recent. We have a question in the Q&A about what some of those non-traditional occupations are. You said a couple, security and information technology. What are some of the other kind of non-traditional programs that you've seen popping up in the district and surrounding area?
Yeah, it's a great question. So green infrastructure is big. It's huge at this moment, especially in the district. Is district. Arborist is different. We have maintenance repair, that's different. We have CHW, community health worker. It's been around obviously for years, but as a principal occupation, it's one of the newer occupations, at least what our office is. And then you have education. That's one of the newer ones with apprenticeship as well. So got partnership with GW, as you know.
I've heard of it.
and Howard University. So yeah, so it's a lot of new non-traditional sectors that we're still learning how to navigate, because it's different, because a lot of these apprentices, especially in education, they are in school, so that's considered their class related instruction already. So it's a little bit different. Right.
Yeah, it's amazing when you start to look at the breadth of experiences that are considered apprenticeable. I was there for example, when the council approved the one of the arborist programs, and you are literally a tree doctor, a tree scientist, and the skill and the knowledge is so specialized, and to have the experience of getting paid from day one and then developing, this set of skills that's just extraordinary. And there's a lot of trees in the district that are very important to the nation's capital. So I think it's, again, things that you might never think of that can be apprenticeships for students. So we'll be sharing more about that as the program goes on. DeSean, I'm mindful of your time, and I know you have another commitment, and I know you only had till 5. So I'm going to mind my manners, and I'm just going to ask you, are there any parting thoughts, wisdom? Well, you have tons of wisdom, but any parting tidbit or thought you'd like to share with the Project Expand participants? This incredible set of educators has committed a lot of time this year to really dig into apprenticeship in DC, take it back to schools in any number of ways, whether they're in the classroom, whether they're working as transition coordinators, whether they're working in central office. Any last little bits of wisdom or anything you'd like for them to know or take with them before you have to head out tonight?
Yes, for sure. Yes, yes. So, like I said, apprenticeship is not secondary, right? I know growing up in Washington, D.C., I rarely ever heard about apprenticeship. It was always college, college, college. And I went to college, I graduated and everything. But apprenticeship is definitely an alternative, right? Everyone isn't made for college. I had so many of my classmates and teammates who dropped out, and they were lost when they was in college, and it wasn't for them. And then they have so much student loan debt. Apprenticeship is free, right? Won't be any debt. Once you become an apprentice, the employer pays for your schooling, it pays for everything, right? So just remember, apprenticeship is alternative. It's not secondary. It's another pathway to a middle class job. Like if you think about it, I had so many electricians, apprentices, who are making $40 to $50 per hour now, with no type of college education. You have plumbers, you have carpenters, you have a lot of amazing apprentices who are becoming journey workers that are making great, great living wages, $30 plus per hour, $40, $50 hours. And if you work on a federal scale job, you can make $60 to $70 per hour. So
Right.
just it's apprenticeship is amazing, especially in the district. The district is booming right now. It's apprenticeship is very hot right now, and I just want to just make sure you tell these young people, mainly, especially in middle school and high school, to apprenticeship is definitely an option. I'm not saying don't go to college, because college is an option too. You just have options. The more options for a young person, the better. I always say the more options, the more exposure. Do shadowing, get connected with apprenticeship, the better off that young person will be, because they will have so many more opportunities to be successful in life. And that's the main thing. Apprenticeship is just another tool, another aspect that they can use.
Thank you so much, DeSean. Your enthusiasm about apprenticeship is always inspiring to me and contagious. And that is what we are hoping to accomplish with Project Expand, is to expand that narrative that there is work, there is college, and there is apprenticeship, a whole other set of opportunities. We're going to try to make it even hotter in the district and get it going with these incredible Project Expand participants. So I would love to just thank you so much for your time and for your wisdom. And we would love to invite you back later on in the project. You can check in, see how things are going. But many, many thanks to you for your wisdom and for spending a few minutes with us this evening, DeSean.
Of course, anytime. Thank you. You guys have a good night. Anytime you need me to speak or to be a part of anything, just let me know. I'm trying to get the apprenticeship out there as much as possible.
Well, you're doing a great job, DeSean, and you can count on hearing from us again. As you know, you can't get rid of us, right? So that's
exactly.
Thanks, DeSean. Have a great evening. Thanks. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
So what a pleasure to speak to Mr. DeSean Lawson, who's been a real friend to our programs at GW, very committed to his work and very open to sharing additional information and ideas. So I hope that just gave everybody a little bit of a taste for just one of the amazing people who's at the District Department of Employment Services and the incredible commitment that they have to apprenticeship. So